Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome to Luxe Life Discovered. My guest today is Liz Hoke, who owns Generation Floral Company in Jonesboro, Arkansas. So, Liz, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for asking me to be on.
I'll tell you, I've always been impressed with you from the first time I met you. You do some very creative work to begin with, and your floral designs are not like typical. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not like
Thank you, Rick.
that.
We
Everything's very
put
individualistic.
very detail oriented.
Yes, yes, and it shows. Yeah. So, how long have you been in your business?
Well, it's a little bit of a tricky answer. The most straightforward answer is we started our business in 2015 is when we got our LLC, and we started out growing flowers, but then we kind of have grown and shifted the business as we've grown our family and had children, and so I got into doing wedding floral design. In 2017 is when we had our first booked wedding, and we've just been rolling ever since then.
So when you had so you have like a mini flower farm, is that, or did you,
Yes,
yeah,
so my husband and I are from Northeast Arkansas, and we had moved to Northwest Arkansas, and we're living in Fayetteville for 6 years, and we were just really trying to come up with ideas and ways to like live the good life, and we had tried to buy properties over there, and it didn't work out, and we had a lot of resources back here in Northeast Arkansas, and we eventually reached the point where it was like, you know what? I became enamored with growing flowers. I got into it through like landscaping and trying to rescue all of the clearance plants at the nursery. And then that kind of branched into growing flowers from seed. And then I had the idea, okay, I want to be a cut flower farmer. And so we moved back to Northeast Arkansas where our resources are. And we built a really small house on the land that my husband, his family lives on. So we're on some acreage there. And we started just having a garden and then trying to sell at the downtown market. And then I got a job at the silos, which transitioned into then me designing with flowers as opposed to just trying to grow them.
yeah. Well, the growing, that's that's great. Did you have outside interest in your flowers when you did that?
So, I mean, it was very small scale. I mean, we were growing on like a quarter of an acre fenced garden, and we grew. And then we had there was an Alive After Five downtown market, like on Thursdays in the summer in 2015. And so we would sell flowers on Thursdays at that market. And then there's a little coffee shop that's not open anymore, but we sold. Little mason jar bouquets there to kind of get started, and it was around the same time that Instagram got really popular.
Right.
And so it opened up this whole new world where I could search hashtags and be searching about flower farming or searching for cut flower design or all these different things, floral design in general. And I learned so much. I could reach out to people who were actively doing what I was romanticizing, but I could reach out to them like a real person. Like I have friends that are all over the US that I don't know them in person. I only know them through social media because I was just like, hey, you're doing what I want to do. I would ask them questions. I'm nobody from Northeast Arkansas. I would ask these people that are been growing and selling cut flowers because Instagram was so new. They were accessible. Now they're not accessible. Now they have the blue check mark and all of that. But
Right.
the timing just worked out to where I was able to glean information from social media in a way that was super helpful for me.
Well, that's something that I think what makes you unique too is that you are inspired with what you do and you don't like copy. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
creative and you bring your own touch to it. And I think that's one of the reasons that you stand out so much.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate that. And we do everything we specialize in weddings and events, and every proposal is a whole new recipe. I create a recipe for each floral item that we
Okay,
need.
yeah.
And so then it is truly unique to the couple or to the event. It might be similar flowers as other events, but the stem count, how we get the pricing and all that, it's brand new for each wedding.
All right. I'll send you a link later of a friend I know in Natchez, Mississippi. He owns a florist now called The Nest, but he's a florist, used to be in Atlanta for years. He's from Natchez originally and moved back home. but he's done work at the White House, different
Oh,
places. But I've
cool.
worked with him on different events, and he'll have like the for event, he'll have like his whole, like you're talking about, the whole list of what he needs,
Mhm.
then the recipe, you flip the page, and then it's a recipe to order what things are done and which flowers are used. And believe
Yeah.
me, I've never seen anybody that detailed. So it doesn't surprise me now that you say you did that, you do that, that you
Yes.
well.
Yes, I used a software program called Details Flowers, and I used that for a few years. And we're in the process of transitioning over now to a new software that does similar things, but it's a little bit more efficient. I find, so we're transitioning over to new software and new website hosting, all kind of stuff. So we're just trying to stay afloat, really.
Yeah, so when you first started the floral business, did you think you'd be up to that point where you'd have to have software to keep up with everything? And I mean,
No, I've
yeah,
always, from the get-go, I have done it through recipes. And Samantha and I would laugh, but I mean, I used to write it all out on paper.
yeah,
And then we'd have the meeting and they would want to change stuff. So then I had to go back and I'd redo it all again on paper.
uh,
And so being able to, you know, when I found the software, total game changer. And it has just I just continue to streamline, make my processes as efficient as possible. We don't have employees. We just have my husband and I, and then I hire freelancers as needed, depending on how big the event is or what kind of help we need. So I've always worked in very small spaces, and I've usually worked primarily alone. So I don't do things in this probably the way that most florists might do it, but it works for
right,
me and it's very
right, right.
efficient. I worked out of a 192 square foot building for 6 years with the
Wow.
flower cooler. And so we did events up to out of that building. I think the highest event amount was $16,000, but we were pulling that kind of event out of that small of a
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
But organization.
Well, and then you used was it your grandmother's house that you,
Yes.
yeah,
Whenever we moved, yeah, we moved from our studio on our little farm, and my husband's grandmother, we live on that acreage. So there's three of us, three houses out there, but she got to the point where she had moved into an assisted living facility. And so her house was sitting there just vacant. And I was working out of this, 192 square foot building. And so my husband was like, you know what? We could probably move the coolers and everything into just the front dining room and living room. And so I moved into there, and that was much bigger than I had had. But then we were able to find a spot downtown that didn't have a storefront. In May of this, or I guess May of last year, 24, we moved downtown. And then
been that
November,
long? Good gracious.
yes, November we moved to this location we're at now, where we have a
Okay, okay,
storefront on Main
right.
Street. Yeah.
I see,
We
yeah.
didn't, I never advertised or said anything about when we moved in May to the little location, because I'm always just one to keep quiet and keep my head down and grind it out.
It's a little
And
work.
then when I'm there, then I want to be like, okay, yeah, here it is. But I didn't want to be too much. Oh, we've moved and we have all these big plans, because truly we didn't have plans. Like we do weddings and we had whatever weddings we had booked, but our children are almost 9 and 5 now, so they're in school during the daytime, and our business needs to grow because our family is growing, and the kids
Right.
cost more every day. So we are jumped into this spot because we just have a lot of confidence and faith that we can put together a new business plan to be able to keep growing the business.
But with this new location though, you have a new vision. And
We do, yes. Whenever we started, we started out as Generations Farm, and my husband and I were going to grow cut flowers. And then I transitioned over to Generations Farm Floral Design. And then I finally did a DBA, so doing business as Generations Floral Company. And that was in 2016. So we've been Generations Floral Company since 2016. But the honest to goodness truth is that flowers chose me more than I chose flowers, even. And as soon as we got into this, we were so busy that there was never a business plan. There was never this idea, this is what we're doing. It was just taking one step, then the next step, then the next step. So we could just keep growing and changing and evolving as our family grew. But now we're to the point where it's like, oh, you know what? Like we have a chance to catch our breath and get our legs under us and say, this is a great opportunity. we're operating a business that is legitimate, but we could do a lot better. And so we're kind of looking at it as like Generations Floral Company 2.0 of how can we take what we started, but make it a lot better and be able to tie in maybe what some of our missions or things that are really important to us, tie those things into it a little bit better in a much cleaner package that overall just feels better and that is not right now Generations Floral Company equals Liz. And we're trying to change from that more or less self-employed to having a legitimate business where we can then move from being business owners to hopefully investors someday and just keep growing.
True, true. So with your new location though, you've got opportunity to do like classes. Is that on?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's what we want to grow it in the idea of, I'd love to be able to have maybe a floral experience studio
Mhm.
where people can come and do different classes or workshops. Maybe we have different, a terrarium bar, a flower bar, a wreath bar, but create an environment where people are coming in here to do an activity as well as commerce. Um, it's tough in our downtown. We've got a building that has blocked downtown off for the last I don't know how many months. Um, so it's a struggle. So being open retail hours is a bit, ooh. So we're just going to keep running it as a design studio, but we're hoping to grow into more of containers and plant design, planting design for different containers, and as well as just the classes, the workshops. We'll still do the weddings, and eventually, once we get pretty steady, and I feel like I can hire somebody that has like a true employee, we want to branch into like daily order. But right now, we're just trying to push it as a floral experience studio and really kind of grow it in that way.
So where did all this creativity and passion, what do you attribute that to?
Um, I have to say that my parents, in a lot of ways, my mother is a school teacher and but very creative, and my dad, he worked for UPS for years, but he quit, and then with the sort of support of my mom, she was a school teacher, so he was able to quit UPS and started his own business where he built specialty houses, and so custom building. I've seen that my whole life. He's been building us houses and we would move from house to house, whichever one he finished, then we would move into it.
Right,
So I've been aware of just that, I won't say self-employed idea that could exist out there. Um, I did case management for a few years, but then got into the flower. And I really just feel like the flowers just reached out and chose me and grabbed me and said, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. Um, because it's always been so easy.
right.
It's just I feel like it's just what I'm supposed to be doing, and so I think I dealt with like that imposter syndrome where it's like I didn't go to school to be a florist, all these different things of why I shouldn't be good at this or why I shouldn't be doing this, but I feel like I finally reached a point where I can say, hey, you know what, this is my spark, like this is my
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that I'm good at, and that it helps. What the flowers do that I love is that it helps humans and flowers have a connection, and there's an emotional connection. There's some sort of internal activation. Flowers make people feel something every
right.
time. Every time. And it's, I just love being involved in that. It's so organic for me that it feels really right. And so flowers have been so healing for me through the different traumas that I've experienced that I'm ready to not be hiding behind being the flower lady, but more or less be excited about helping people experience some of the healing and some of the just the wonderful benefits that fresh florals can bring about.
Yeah. That's great. So you've done some very nice weddings. So what is your favorite, I mean, not name or anything, but like favorite wedding design that you've done?
Well, there's a lot that stand out, but there's one in particular. We had a bride, and she was going with some bright colors, and she gave us full freedom. I hit her with, "Hey, what if we arranged it kind of in an ombre effect for your bouquet and for the big hoop?" So, and she was like, "I don't care, whatever you want to do, do it." And so,
which is good and scary at the same time. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. And so we did. And for me, her bouquet and that hoop, we did them probably 3 or 4 years ago, but they always stand out to me. And we didn't get any good photographs from them really,
Oh,
which was always kind of like, oh, what a bummer. But that event was great because she was willing to say, I trust you. And that stuck with me. That means so much.
yeah.
But yeah, that one, and we did have two sisters that got married back to let's see, 24 and 23 and 24. And those two sisters, they each had two very, very different weddings, but they were both so beautiful. And we got to do some really large scale installations. And so those two stick out to me as well.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, because that's when you can be really creative and,
Gosh.
um, but also do you get tickled sometime? Because I do this is when people come to me with their Pinterest ideas on a beer budget,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like, yeah, that's great, but that's not going to work on your budget.
But
And
all
so
the time. But I look at it as one of a big component of my job, I feel, is the education
yeah,
to the end consumer because most of them haven't bought wedding flowers before. They haven't gotten married before. If they've
sure.
paid for a wedding, it may or may not have been recently, but it's a lot different than whenever their wedding happened if it's the parents. Um, and flowers are expensive when I buy them. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the prices are just going up. But yeah, helping people have a realistic expectation, I feel like goes a long way for them being
Oh,
more happy in the overall scheme of things.
well, that's true, and you're right. Education is a key part of it because even from the planning aspect of it, you tell people your fee, and they're like, "Well, why am I paying you that much money to do what I could do?" And then they come back later, or they go with somebody else, and then come back and say, could
Yeah.
you help us?" I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
that's that's kind of awkward for me because you already hired somebody else.
Yeah.
So I don't want to discredit what they're doing. But so it's interesting. It is a lot of education in the whole process of the whole wedding part of it. But
Yeah.
florals, so that's such a key part of it, can be such a big part of it. And when you have somebody that wants to like spend the money on the florals, it's fun because that's when you let people like you just bring their
Oh man.
creativity to the
It's
forefront. And
It's so great. I mean, one of I mentioned there were two sisters. The one that got married this last year, for her color palette particularly, I mean, I was in there weeping while I was making her arrangements because it was just the colors were just so beautiful that I'm gonna cry now. But I felt like I was painting with flowers, and that's so cool. Like it's my job, but it's so cool. It's interesting when I think about like the work that we do because we're more or less invisible. All of our work happens behind the scenes. We show up, we set everything up in place, and then we're out of there before the guests and everyone
yeah,
arrived. And then the party happens and all the fun is had.
and then
And
you
then we
go back
come
and
back
see
at the
that.
end and we gather it all up and we throw it in the trash
Yeah,
or
yeah,
we donate it to a place or they take it to a church or a nursing home.
yeah,
But at the end of it, I spend so much time planning, a small amount of time making it, and then it goes in the trash. And so there's this cyclical process about it that is beautiful, but also heartbreaking.
yeah,
I make something that it's not meant to last. I know that when I get it, I'm working with a dead product. And that's what people
yeah.
think. I don't want to buy a cut flower. I don't want to buy flowers. They don't last. Well, why would you expect them to? They're not supposed to last. They're a very temporary pleasure.
That's
And
true. Yeah,
that's those temporary pleasures. That's being human. When you
there's
can
a
accept those
place.
little pleasures.
Oh yeah, there's a group in Northwest Arkansas that started this. Like they'll come get the flowers at the end of an event and repurpose
Yeah.
them for nursing homes, that type thing. Has
Hmm.
anybody in Jonesboro started that yet, or have you
There's
guys?
not, there's one in Memphis, that does it, but not anything here yet. We used to take them, there was a nursing home, like in Bono, we'd go drop them off at, and my, husband's grandmother, she's at the villa. And so we've taken arrangements there before. When COVID hit, all that kind of stuff got kind of stopped for a while.
Right.
Um, Really anymore, I find that people are, interested in taking it with them. For a
Yeah,
long time, I
that's
would.
I've seen a lot lately. And a lot of what's crazy is that trying to get them not to take the containers or vases or whatever with them too. That
Yeah.
it's kind of like you have to be on guard now. And then I did a wedding in Florida in November. And so I asked the florist when she was coming back to pick up all of her vases and stuff. She goes, I don't want anything. She said, just give it all away. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that was,
Oftentimes I'll charge it to them so they can take it with them. And if they don't want to, okay, I'll take it back.
or
But,
it saves you from having to go back and deal with it. So
well,
it's
yes.
kind of nice in a way. Yeah.
And, if I was the bride and I was getting married and I paid all this money for the centerpiece, like I only want to take it with me. I don't want you to take all the flowers out and give me deconstructed centerpiece and then you take, just charge me 10 extra dollars and let me take
Yeah.
it home with me. So,
Right, right. Well, and that way they get to enjoy them longer. It's not just that short period of time for the
yeah.
wedding or reception. They get to have those at their home and enjoy those.
Hmm.
So 2025, what does it look like for you? How would you describe the projection you see for 2025?
Well, I am trying to be modest with the projections, but I'm super excited about what I think that what I believe that we can accomplish here in this. Uh, Say it again.
Now, I'm not sure where that was. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll be for 2025. I'm hopeful that that by the end of it, weddings are not our primary source of income,
Mhm.
but that it is a component and that we have been able to build up some really solid plans and solid, just that we've got it going on. We've got workshops happening, we've got weddings that are happening, there are pickup orders that are happening, that we're able to connect people and flowers and plants, and have a great time doing it.
It's gonna be interesting to see what all you accomplish this year because I always like your vision. I like your creativity. You're always fun to be around.
Well,
And
thank you.
I wish we had a picture of your truck because your truck is, or your
Oh
van,
my gosh, yeah.
that is one of that's just like if you ever got rid of it, I think it'd be like,
Oh
it's
my
not a
goodness.
typical van.
Yes.
It'd be so
Yeah.
disappointing.
Yes, it's a 97 Chevy P30 step van. Yeah, we've got vintage flowers on it and our
Yeah,
logo
yeah.
and whatnot. We get a lot of attention in the truck. I'll get a lot of attention from older men that are so interested in I see them looking at the truck and finally they're like, well, tell me what are you doing with this thing? And so I love opening it up. Get on in here, check this out.
That's great.
Because it's so cool. And my dad, like I said, he drove for UPS. And so, getting a big box truck like that, it kind of reminded me so much of his UPS truck.
That's awesome. I think
Um,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, we didn't have a lot of money to spend on a truck, but we knew we needed a delivery vehicle. We started delivering out of initially I had a Jetta Sport Wagon, and
Mhm.
then I got a Suburban, and we delivered out of that. But then eventually we got the truck because the weddings just kept getting bigger, the items kept getting bigger, and we just needed a way to haul it around. So
Oh, I think it's perfect because it's just your personality too.
it
It
does. It all kind of
yeah.
fits. We moved in our current space November 15th, I believe, and the Christmas parade for Jonesboro was on December 6th. So of course I signed us up and said, "Oh, we're going to pull a float." um, but I did get my senses about me after we pulled our trailer out and was just like, how are we going to do this? Like, really? So I said, you know what? We don't have to do a
The
float. We'll just
Christmas
decorate
lights.
the work truck. And so
Yeah.
that's what we did. We put Christmas lights and greenery sprays on the truck. And we didn't hand out candy. We handed out carnations and a card that tells about who we are, where we're located, and a coupon code for Valentine's Day. And so we've already had 2 Valentine's Day orders come in, and they've utilized the coupon code.
Good.
So a lot of fun.
Smart, smart. Yeah. Well, great. Well, I wish you the best in everything that you do and all
Thank
the
you, Rick. I
different
always
plans you have
appreciate
for
it.
2025. So we're going to put your information on the screen. So if you're in Northeast Arkansas, Southwest Missouri, is it Southwest? Yeah. But
Yeah,
Southeast.
Southeast.
Yeah. Make sure you contact Liz and let her take care of your floral needs, because it won't be just a typical package look. It's going to be very creative, very unique, and it's going to be very pleasing. So, John, if we'll put her contact information, there we go.
Uh-huh. That's
And,
it.
and then she's located downtown Jonesboro. So, yeah, give Liz a shout and make sure you do some business with her. But Liz, thanks so much for being with me today.
Sure.
I
Thank you so
enjoyed this.
much.
Well, it's
I
been,
always enjoy it.
yeah. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Luxe Life Discovered. We'll see you soon.
All right. Y'all take care.